The smell of grilled meat and fresh bread drifted through the cool night air as Alex walked toward Harper's Haven, his favorite corner diner. The neon sign above the entrance flickered faintly, casting a warm, inviting glow over the sidewalk. Alex had been coming here for years. Something about the place felt like home, especially after long, draining days at work. But tonight, just as his hand reached for the door, something made him pause. Across the street, a man sat hunched over on a park bench, clutching a ragged backpack to his chest. His clothes were layered but ill-fitted for the cold, and his hands trembled faintly as he rubbed them together. Alex watched as people walked past, their eyes fixed firmly ahead. The man didn't look up. His head hung low, his shoulders sagging under an invisible weight. For a moment, Alex hesitated. He wasn't sure what to do. A voice in his head whispered to leave it alone, to go inside, order dinner, and move on with his night. But he couldn't. Something about the man, his stillness, the raw exhaustion in his posture held Alex in place. Before he could second-guess himself, Alex crossed the street. "Hey," Alex said gently as he approached, stopping a few feet away. "You okay?" The man lifted his head slowly, his eyes glassy and tired. His face was gaunt, shadowed by stubble that looked weeks old. He didn't answer immediately, just stared as though trying to decide whether Alex was real. "I'm fine," he muttered finally, his voice hoarse. "Have you eaten?" Alex asked. The man hesitated, his lips parting as if he wanted to speak but couldn't. Finally, he shook his head. "Not for a while," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Alex glanced back at the diner, then at the man. "Come on," he said, motioning toward the glowing sign. "Let's get you something to eat. My treat." The man blinked, his expression shifting between confusion and wariness. "Why?" he asked. Alex shrugged. "Why not? You look like you could use a good meal." The man hesitated a moment longer before nodding. He stood slowly, his movements stiff and cautious. "Okay," he said. Inside the diner, the warmth was almost overwhelming after the chill of the night. The hostess gave the two of them a brief, curious glance but said nothing as Alex requested a booth near the back. The man followed quietly, clutching his backpack like a lifeline. "Here," Alex said, sliding a menu across the table. "Order whatever you want." The man stared at the menu, his hands trembling slightly as he picked it up. "Anything?" he asked. "Anything," Alex assured him. After some hesitation, the man settled on a burger, fries, and a chocolate milkshake. Alex added his own order, a chicken sandwich and a side salad, and the waitress left with their choices. "So," Alex said, leaning back in his seat, "what's your name?" The man hesitated, his fingers still gripping the edge of the menu. "Russell," he said finally. "Nice to meet you, Russell. I'm Alex." Russell gave a faint nod but didn't say anything else. He looked out the window, his shoulders tense, as though waiting for someone to tell him he didn't belong here. "You live around here?" Alex asked after a moment. "Not really," Russell replied. "Been moving around a lot. Looking for work." "What kind of work?" "Mechanic," Russell said, his voice gaining a faint spark of pride. "Cars, bikes, anything with an engine, really. Used to be good at it." "That's awesome," Alex said. "You ever work on motorcycles?" Russell nodded. "Yeah. Had an old steel runner I fixed up from scratch once. Took forever, but it ran like a dream." Alex's eyes lit up. "No way. I've got a Greystone 650 in my garage. Bought it used, but I don't know the first thing about fixing it." "I could help," Russell offered instinctively, then paused, as though realizing what he'd just said. "If you'd want me to, I mean." "Absolutely," Alex said without hesitation. Their food arrived, interrupting the conversation. Russell stared at his plate, a towering burger, golden fries, and a milkshake topped with whipped cream for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "You okay?" Alex asked. "Yeah," Russell said quickly. He picked up the burger, his hand still shaking slightly, and took a bite. Then another. Alex watched as Russell ate, the tension in his shoulders easing with every bite. It wasn't just hunger being satiated, it was something deeper, like a piece of himself was being restored. "You weren't kidding," Alex said with a grin. "You were hungry." Russell gave a faint chuckle. The sound rough but genuine. "Yeah. Guess I was." They talked as they ate, their conversation weaving between bikes, city life, and bits of Russell's past, a small repair shop he'd once worked at, a one-bedroom apartment he'd lost, and his dream of starting his own garage someday. When they finished, Alex paid the bill. As they were getting ready to leave, a woman approached their table. She was dressed in a sharp navy coat, her blonde hair pulled neatly back, and held a small envelope in her hand. "I couldn't help but notice," she said, addressing Alex. "That was a very kind thing you did." "Oh," Alex said, caught off guard. "It's nothing, really." The woman smiled and placed the envelope on the table. "It's more than nothing. Please take this." Before Alex could respond, she turned and walked away, her heels clicking softly against the tiled floor. Curious, Alex picked up the envelope and opened it. Inside was a folded note and a stack of crisp $100 bills. Alex's heart skipped as he quickly counted them, $2,500 in total. The note read, "One kind act can ripple further than you imagine. Thank you for being the start of one." Alex stared at the note, his chest tightening with a mix of gratitude and disbelief. Outside the diner, Russell turned to him. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. "You don't have to," Alex replied, tucking the note and cash into his pocket. "Just promise me you'll give that bike project a shot when you're ready." Russell nodded, and for the first time, Alex saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. As they parted ways, Alex couldn't help but glance at the envelope again. Who was that woman, and why had she gone out of her way to reward his kindness? It felt like the beginning of something he couldn't quite explain. The next morning, Alex sat at his kitchen table, the note and the $2,500 spread out in front of him. He still couldn't believe it. The encounter at the diner played over and over in his mind, the woman's calm demeanor, her cryptic words, and the overwhelming sense that this wasn't just about him. Alex knew one thing: the money wasn't his to keep. Sure, he could find a use for it, pay off some bills, maybe splurge on a few upgrades for the Greystone, but none of that felt right. The money, like the note, was a sign. He reached for his phone and dialed Russell's number. It rang a few times before Russell's familiar, raspy voice answered. "Hello." "Morning, Russell. It's Alex." There was a brief pause. "Hey, Alex. What's up?" "I was thinking," Alex began. "How do you feel about coming by tonight? We can get started on that bike." "You're serious?" "Of course," Alex said. "I'll pick up some tools and whatever parts we might need. You just bring your expertise." Russell laughed, the sound faint but genuine. "I'd like that." That evening, Russell arrived at Alex's garage. His backpack seemed lighter, and his posture was a little more relaxed. When he saw the Greystone, his eyes lit up. "She's a beauty," Russell said, crouching next to the bike. He ran his hand along the frame, his touch reverent. "A little banged up, but nothing we can't fix." "I've got a few parts," Alex said, gesturing to the workbench. "Tell me what else you think we'll need." For the next few hours, Russell worked on the bike with a focus and confidence that made Alex smile. The transformation was immediate, not just in the bike, but in Russell himself. His hands, steady and sure, moved like they belonged to someone who had spent years mastering his craft. Alex handed him tools and asked questions, marveling at the way Russell came alive as he explained each step. "This kind of work," Russell said at one point, "it's like meditation. You lose yourself in it. Everything else just fades away." They worked late into the night, laughing and swapping stories. By the time they called it quits, the Greystone was still far from road ready, but the progress felt significant. Same time tomorrow, Alex asked as Russell packed up his tools. Yeah, Russell said with a nod. Thanks, Alex. For everything. The following day, Alex stopped by a local auto parts store during his lunch break. As he browsed the aisles, an idea began to take shape. What if the $2,500 could be used to do more than just fix the bike? He thought back to Russell's words at the diner about looking for work, about his dream of running his own garage someday. Maybe this money was meant to help Russell get back on his feet. That evening, as Russell worked on the bike, Alex brought up the idea. Have you thought about getting back into the business? He asked casually. Russell hesitated, his hands stilling. What do you mean? You're good at this, Alex said. You know your way around an engine better than anyone I've met. There's got to be a shop out there that could use someone like you. Russell shook his head. It's not that simple. Shops don't hire guys like me. No address, no steady income, no references. They see you coming and shut the door before you can even say hello. What if we change that? Alex said. Russell frowned. How? Alex reached for the envelope and pulled out the stack of cash. With this, Russell stared at the money, his eyes widening. What is that? Call it a sign, Alex said with a smile. This showed up last night after dinner. Someone left it with a note saying how one act of kindness can ripple outward. I think this is meant to help you. Russell took a step back, shaking his head. Alex, I can't. Yes, you can, Alex interrupted. Think about it. You could use this to get a set of tools, maybe a work uniform, whatever you need to walk into a shop and show them you're serious. Russell looked at the money, then at Alex. Why are you doing this? Because someone believed in me, Alex said. And now it's my turn to believe in you. For a long moment, Russell said nothing. Then, finally, he reached out and took the money, his hands trembling. I don't know how to thank you, he said. You don't have to, Alex replied. Just promise me you'll give it a shot. Russell nodded, his expression a mixture of hope and disbelief. I will, he said softly. That night, as Alex watched Russell walk away, he felt a quiet sense of fulfillment. The money, the bike, the note, it all felt like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. The next week passed in a blur of small but meaningful steps. Russell used part of the money to buy a sturdy set of tools and a clean, presentable set of clothes. For the first time in months, he walked into auto shops with a sense of purpose. I'm ready to work, Russell would say, his voice steady. I've been a mechanic for years and I can prove it. At first, the results were mixed. Some shop owners barely gave him the time of day, their skepticism plain. But Russell didn't let it stop him. With every rejection, he refined his approach, determined to find someone willing to take a chance. Alex was there to support him every step of the way, offering encouragement and checking in daily. The bike project became a shared ritual and anchor for both of them. Then, one afternoon, Alex's phone buzzed. It was Russell. They hired me, Russell said, his voice trembling with excitement. Murphy's Auto. They're giving me a trial shift tomorrow. That's incredible, Alex said, grinning ear to ear. I knew you'd pull it off. I couldn't have done it without you, Russell replied. Yes, you could, Alex said. You just needed the right tools, literally and figuratively. The next day, Russell began his trial shift at Murphy's Auto. By the end of the week, the shop offered him a part-time position, with the promise of more hours if things worked out. For Russell, it was a lifeline, a chance to rebuild the life he'd lost. To celebrate, Alex invited Russell over for a cookout in his backyard. They grilled burgers, drank cold sodas, and laughed late into the night. To second chances, Russell said, raising his glass. To you, proving everyone wrong, Alex replied with a grin. The transformation in Russell was remarkable. His posture straightened, his voice gained confidence, and his smile came more easily. With each paycheck, he set aside money for a deposit on a small apartment. A month later, Russell stood in Alex's garage holding up the key to his new place. "I can't believe this is real," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You earned it," Alex said. "Every bit of it." Russell looked down at the key, then back at Alex. "I don't know how I'll ever repay you." "You already have," Alex said. "Just keep paying it forward." As the weeks went by, Russell began mentoring the younger mechanics at Murphy's Auto, sharing his knowledge and encouraging them to keep learning. He even started saving for his dream of opening his own shop someday. One evening, after another long day at work, Alex received a text from Russell. "The bike's ready. Let's ride." Alex smiled. It had been months since they'd first started working on the Greystone, and now, the moment had finally arrived. The next morning, Alex and Russell hit the road. The bike roared beneath them, its engine humming with new life. They rode through winding streets and open highways, the wind rushing past, the sun warm on their backs. For Alex, it wasn't just a ride, it was a celebration of everything they'd accomplished together. As they pulled over to a scenic overlook, Alex turned to Russell. "How does it feel?" "Like freedom," Russell said, grinning. Alex nodded, feeling a rare sense of peace. This, he thought, was what it was all about, not the money, not the recognition, but the joy of helping someone rediscover their potential. As they stood there, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Alex's phone buzzed. It was a notification from his bank, a deposit of $2,500, labeled simply as, "Keep the ripple going." Alex stared at the message, his heart pounding. He didn't know who had sent it or why, but one thing was clear: the story wasn't over. Alex couldn't stop staring at the deposit notification on his phone. Another $2,500 out of nowhere, just like the money from the note at the diner. The accompanying message, "Keep the ripple going," felt like both an encouragement and a challenge. "Everything okay?" Russell asked, noticing Alex's distraction. "Yeah," Alex said, tucking his phone back into his pocket. "Just something unexpected." They finished their ride and parted ways with plans to meet again soon. But as Alex drove home, his thoughts churned. Who had sent the money? Was it the same stranger who'd left the note at the diner? And why him? Instead of answers, Alex found himself with only more questions. Over the next few weeks, Alex decided to focus on what he could control. He donated part of the new $2,500 to the local charity that had helped Russell. The rest, he used to buy more tools and supplies for his garage, turning it into a space where others could come for help if they needed it. Word spread quickly. Soon, Alex found himself helping neighbors with everything from minor repairs to job advice. He even started teaching a few local teens how to work on engines, just as Russell had taught him. "Guess you're becoming the neighborhood hero," Russell joked one evening as he stopped by the garage. "Hardly," Alex replied, tightening a bolt on a rusted bike frame. "Just trying to do my part." Russell leaned against the workbench, watching Alex work. "You know, you've done more than just fix a few bikes, you've changed lives." Alex shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "I just wanted to help." "And you did," Russell said. "For me and for a lot of others. That's something to be proud of." Alex smiled, grateful but still modest. "Well, you've been paying it forward too. I hear good things about you at Murphy's Auto." Russell chuckled. "Yeah, it's been going well. And you know what? I've been thinking about that dream I told you about, starting my own shop." Alex looked up, intrigued. "You serious?" "Dead serious," Russell said. "I've been saving, talking to some people. It's still a long way off, but it feels possible now." Alex grinned. "That's what I like to hear. Let me know how I can help." "You've already helped more than enough," Russell replied, clapping Alex on the shoulder. Months later, Alex stood in front of a small crowd gathered outside a newly refurbished garage. The sign above the door read "Russell's Repairs" in bold blue letters. The grand opening was modest but heartfelt. Local families, co-workers, and friends came to celebrate Russell's achievement. Alex couldn't help but feel a swell of pride as he watched his friends shake hands, greet customers, and show off the new space. During the event, Russell pulled Alex aside. "This wouldn't have happened without you," Russell said. Alex shook his head. "Don't sell yourself short. You worked for this. I just gave you a nudge." Russell smiled. A nudge was all I needed. As the event wound down, Alex found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. It had all started with a simple meal at Harper's Haven and a chance encounter with a stranger. Later that night, back at home, Alex sat at his kitchen table, staring at the note he'd kept from the diner. One kind act can ripple further than you imagine. A notification buzzed on his phone, breaking the quiet. It was another deposit $2,500, with the same message. "Keep the ripple going." This time Alex didn't feel confusion or disbelief. He smiled, understanding now that this wasn't about solving a mystery. It was about something bigger, passing kindness forward, one act at a time. As he closed his laptop, Alex looked toward the garage, where his tools were neatly organized and waiting for the next project. The ripple wasn't done yet, and neither was he.